we will get started.
Okay.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Coaches. For those of you who don't know me yet, I am Jennifer Timborski, the CEO and Chief Strategist at Virtual Marketing Experts. We're a digital marketing company that specializes in working with business owners who have a desire to make an impact on the world through their courses, coaching, and consulting services. We help them to accelerate their business and scale their impact. Here's the thing, I truly believe coaches have the ability to change the world, and I wanted to have a part in it. So I created this YouTube channel to help us get their message out there. Today, I am so excited to have Michelle on the podcast Conversations with Coaches with me. Michelle, introduce yourself to our audience. Tell them who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Michelle Abraham. I'm the CEO and founder of Amplifyou, where we get to help our authors, coaches, speakers, entrepreneurs, and people out there with a huge mission and a huge heart wanting to make a difference in the world. We help them get their message out there in a bigger way through podcasting. And so we'd love to help you launch your show, but also manage your show so that you can stay in the content creation zone and work with clients and do the things you love to do, while we take care of the technology and the marketing for you. So that's our zone of genius, and we love to keep you in your zone of genius as well. I live on the Sunshine Coast of BC up in Canada, where I live on a boat access only lake. I drive a boat across the lake to drop my kids off at the school bus. So my husband and I chose this lifestyle thanks to my business that's 100% virtual, online, and international, and we're able to live an amazing lifestyle now because of it. So talk about freedom lifestyle, there it is for you. And so
that is incredibly
super excited.
Cool.
Yeah, so super excited to be here with you today, Jennifer, and yeah, let's give these guys some goods.
Yes, absolutely. So you and I both work with coaches. That's our primary target, right? Who we tend to work with most. And I think we both have that same view that coaches have the opportunity to kind of change the world. So when we're talking about coaches, why is podcasting so important for them?
Oh yeah, good question. Podcasting is one of those things that has been around for a long time, but it's just coming up on the forefront right now. And some of you may think like, but everyone's podcasting now, it's too late. And actually podcasting is just in its infancy stages. In fact, the last 3 days, there's been more blog posts posted than there are podcasts in existence, which is over 1 million. So podcasting is still very much the Wild West, and there's lots of room for you there. Why I love podcasting for our coaches especially is because it's a great way for you to get your word out there and message out there in a bigger way. I mean, when we put a show out into the world, we're launching it on 30 plus platforms like, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google, Ghana, Amazon. They're just like, the list goes on. There's so many, not even including Spotify and iTunes and the big ones, right? So it's just millions and millions of people out there listening to podcasts right now, which is great, because as the amount of shows have grown, so has the amount of listeners. I remember when I first started a couple of years ago, in 2012, I'd walk down the street and probably 2 out of 10 people would know what a podcast is. Now everyone does. But the important thing for coaches to know right now is it's not a difficult thing to get started. You get to have a platform where you have a voice. It positions yourself as an expert. Plus, we're looking at using this as a networking tool and a way for you to have a conversation with people that you may not be able to reach on your own without that platform. So it's a really great tool for growing your business, and our coaches have seen huge success in many different areas from it.
So as a marketer, I look at like the funnel of a coach, and I think for me, podcasts really give you the ability to help additionally warm up your audience, right? It gets those cold audience people and allows you to start creating more of a connection with them, which is what I love about podcasts.
It was interesting. A lot of our clients that are coaches will say that, podcasting is not a short-term strategy. It's like a long-term game. And so our coaches that are in it for the long haul, they understand that by the time a client comes to them from their podcast, they're sold. There is no selling needing to be happening.
Exactly.
They like you, they trust you, they know you, they want to give you a hug, they want to give you their money. And this is the true from, $200 programs to $10,000 programs. We've seen it across the board, and even in the last few months. And so I love that because it does give them an audience the chance to really get to know them, not just from a business standpoint, because there is no hiding. You have to be authentic in your podcast, because if you're not, it shows, and you're not going to last very long because you can't keep that up. So your heart will show through your podcast very easily.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so true. I know a lot of people they'll use social media to kind of develop their audience. And I really think podcasting works so well in that. Before we hopped on a call, we were really talking about people using their Facebook Lives in different ways, reusing that kind of thing. So taking them to podcasts and that kind of thing. And just tell our audience kind of how that works.
Yeah, for sure. So, podcasting is really cool because it's an audio platform. So people out there have all sorts of different learning styles and learning abilities. For me, I love listening to things because I can take it wherever I go, in the car, when I'm cooking dinner, cleaning the house, going for a jog, whatever it is, walking the dog, going to the gym. I can have a podcast on with me. So for me, auditory is my preferred learning method. Other people is sitting in front of a video watching. For other people, is reading a blog post. So the great thing about podcasting, if you record on something like Zoom here, you're getting the video and the audio. And so when you can extract the audio from the video, you can publish it on iTunes, you can separate that video, make all sorts of different kinds of cuts to it and put it on Instagram and Facebook. And then you're repurposing that content, you're transcribing it, you're turning it into a book, you're turning it into a course, you're making little videos out of it. It's endless, you guys, the possibilities of what you can do with this content. And what we challenge our clients to think about is when they start doing podcasting, you're not adding podcasting in as another thing that you're doing for your social media. It's not another platform you have to be on. Believe me, that's overwhelming. It is the only platform that you need for content creation, because you start with all that together once. You can sit down and record a couple hours a month and have all your entire social media content for the whole month done. And so that's what I like about podcasting.
I love that point. And it's something that I tell my clients all the time. So how can a coach build their coaching business, either as a guest or having their own show?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, not being a host is not for everybody by all means, but what is important for everybody is to be a guest. And I think, there's definitely more leverage points from being a host. So if you can manage having your own show, it's definitely a highlight. I highly recommend it. But for those of you that want to just test out the waters by being a guest, it's great because when you're on a show, your whoever's interviewing you is usually elevating you as the guest. You're getting that expertise. You're getting, I can see now I've been on conversations with coaches with Jennifer, and now I can put that on my website. So it's social credibility that you're getting. Plus, you're able to then share your message. And what I would recommend being prepared before you go out there is making sure you have somewhere to send people after you're done talking, so that you can actually invite them into your world, invite them to your podcast, or invite them into your Facebook group or somewhere for free gift. I have some to give to you today. So make sure that you're always able to give people a gift to lead them back to where you're hanging out, or where you want them to go, which is usually the top of your funnel.
Exactly. I mean, that's oftentimes I encourage my clients to have a separate funnel just for the podcast, whether it's for your own or for guest podcasting, to have a separate special thing that you only give away on the podcast.
Yeah. And being a marketer, Jennifer, you'll love this, because there's something that we've just started doing recently, and we've seen really great results with it, is that instead of sending people, like, how I said, people learn in all different modalities, whether it's audio, visual, kinesthetic, whatever it is. So what we're finding is that if you're sending your audience to a PDF from a podcast, that's two different modalities. And now they've got to go to a computer to download it usually, or like if they're on their phone, which 57% of all podcasters listeners are on their phone. So you're sending them somewhere else, or to a video. It's a little bit different. So we are creating some opt-ins now with success with our clients using private audio. So it's really cool because it comes in looking like a podcast, and it says when you opt in for it, you opt in on your phone. It says, where do you want to listen to this? On Google, on Apple Podcasts, or on Spotify, where you're already listening to the podcast. So it makes a lot of sense to go from audio to audio. And so that's something that's brand new and just gaining some traction right now, but it's been really cool to see the results with it.
That is a fantastic idea, and one I hadn't thought about, but it's a really good idea.
Yeah.
So how do coaches or anyone really that wants to develop a podcast, how do they monetize it? How do they make money from it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, a lot of people in podcasting space, so you have to remember the entrepreneurs, coaches, we're a very, very tiny, unique little segment of the podcasting world. The rest of the podcasting world out here are chasing after download numbers. They're chasing after ad sponsorships. They're chasing after lots of different things. They want to monetize their podcast through Patreon, which is like a donation site for those that don't know. Lots of different things over there. So our entrepreneurs that we work with over here, where you're wanting actually your listeners to come back into your own programs and services. And that's how you should be monetizing your podcast. So you're not necessarily chasing the hundreds of thousands of downloads, although those are nice. But if we had 10,000 people come in as leads into our business, I think most of us would go out of business really quickly. So what we want to do is focus on the relationships and focus on those few people that we have as listeners and really nurture them and invite them to come work with us, invite them into a Facebook group where they can get to know us more, invite them onto a conversation with us, a call, whatever it is that you want to do in your business, but focus on those few people that you have as listeners. Not saying that you're going to have few people, but just focus on those instead of going after the hundreds of thousands of downloads. And so what helps you kind of put this in perspective the clients, I only had 100 downloads on this episode. I was like, guys, if you had 100 people in your living room, you'd be so excited. So take it into perspective and just like think about those 100 people. You'd be thrilled. Now try to get them into a conversation with you and try to move them into your world, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you think about, if you think about those downloads or those views or listings, you've got 100 people. You may even have 1,000 people. But how many of them can you actually serve? So if all of them come knocking at your door, you're not going to be able to serve all of them at the same time. But this definitely gives you an entry point for them that is low risk, high reward for them.
Yeah, and it's just something to think about because I think there's so much hype around those big download numbers and ranking high and all that stuff. And that's amazing to do that. But in reality, that's like, 1% of the podcasts out there. And so if you can think about, the people that you can see how many downloads you have. You can see it doesn't take a lot to, we just had a show launch this week and it's called Horse Training in Harmony. It's about horse training. And it hit number one in all sorts of different countries. And she had 87 reviews right away. So, in perspective, that doesn't take a lot to get into those rankings sometimes. But she came with a list. She has courses and programs already. She has a book in 30 languages. So, she's already established as an expert. So I think just kind of taking a look at our expectations when we come into podcasting, that is possible if you have all those things in place. But it's also possible to do it if you don't have those things in place, but just keeping in perspective where you want those people to go and what is your goal with podcasting.
Yeah, having a goal, I think, with any of our marketing, and podcasting is definitely a part of marketing that could be incredibly beneficial to people. But having a goal for all of it, I think, is one of the important things that people tend to forget, right? We're not just throwing stuff out there. There is a process and a goal, which is where you come in, right?
Yeah, there's like you would suggest to your clients too. There's a lot of strategy that goes behind it too, right? So setting it up like specifically, like you said, that was really smart, having a separate funnel for podcasting, so that you can see where all those leads are coming in from when you go on as a guest or you go on a show. One of my clients, he's really well known in the podcasting space, and he owns Podcast Magazine, and he trains a lot about. We work on his show, we manage his show on a weekly basis, but he goes out and trains on how to get leads into your business from going out and being a guest, which is really cool. I think that's a really smart way. And how he does it is sending them to a funnel, which is an opt-in for a free book plus shipping. And, he does very well with that, where he's made 6 figures alone from just guesting on 2 podcasts a week. So
that'd be a nice side benefit there.
Right? Yeah. So, and then that was a few years ago too. So things are, interesting. That's still possible, but you just have to have that right strategy and the right sequence of everything happening.
Absolutely. And so one more question, but can you help those that don't necessarily want to do a podcast, but that want to guest on podcasts? They're kind of in that I'm not sure that I want to commit to a podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's really important that there's so many bad ways that you can go about doing this, right? And so how we ended up on the show here together is we met at a networking event and we said, let's have a conversation. It was kind of like a coffee date, right? I specifically have a lot of my podcasts and I'll invite you onto my show where we can have a conversation, so I specifically use my podcast as a networking tool in that way to get to know people better, see if there's any joint venture possibilities or collaboration possibilities, right? Because if you're out there looking for partners to collaborate with, that's where your business is really going to grow. But I wanted to bring it back to your original question. And, I think when people are out there podcasting wanting to be a guest, there's the wrong way of going about it and there's the right way of going about it. So if you can, first of all, listen to their show if you want to be on it. Find out if they have an audience that would be a good fit for you. Do you speak about spirituality and the host is talking about business? Then that's not really a good fit, right? So, or sometimes some shows that is a perfect fit, right? So it just depends. Listen to what they say to their audience. Who is their audience? Go review their show. Give them a nice review. Give them a subscribe. Show up on their social media. Comment, share. Then you're on their radar. And then I would send them a video saying, hey, I just loved your show. I listened to this episode, and I speak about this, this, and this. And I was thinking that would be a really good fit for your audience. So if you're interested, please let me know. And, let's take it from there. And if you can send a video and compliment them on their show, review, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, you're on their radar now. And that is 10 times more effort than anyone else puts in. So that will just put you further ahead in the first place.
Those are such good tips. Such good tips. Okay, so we are getting to the end of the show and I want our audience to be able to connect with you. So I know you said you had a free gift for them. So how about you share?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got 2 different free gifts for you. One, if you're interested in learning about that, if you have a podcast already, you're interested in learning about that private audio I was talking about, this one will be specifically for you. So it's called mypodcastcoach.com/private. Okay, so that's the link for the private one. And what that's going to do is going to show you an example of what the private audio looks like. So you're going to go there, and I did a 5-day challenge on how to use private audio to increase your listenership and make more money from your podcast. So over 5 days, we did a training on it. So that's what that one is. And another one I have is called mypodcastcoach.com/gifts. 2 really great gifts there. One, my friend and co-founder of my podcast coach, Evans Putman, he talks about monetizing your podcast and 5 ways to do that. And he was responsible in partnership with a podcast that was making over $500,000 in recurring revenue and was sold for 6 figures. So he's got so many great brains on monetizing your show. And then the other gift in that little link there is 7 places that podcasters look for guests. And so we've got all sorts of directories. You can put yourself out on there and that people are looking for guests from.
That's fantastic. And I will have all of those links in the show notes below for those of you that want to connect with Michelle. Thank you so much for coming on Conversations with Coaches, Michelle. And
you're so welcome.
I look forward. I'm going to hop on to her gifts and download them for myself. And I look forward to listening to your podcast and just learning more about you in the future.
Yes, thank you so much, Jennifer, for having me. Please reach out, and I'm so excited to invite you onto my show, Amplifyou. So we'll see you. I'll have another conversation from my audience over there.
Absolutely. Sounds fantastic. Thank you all for joining us today, and I will see you on the next Conversations with Coaches.